Hello and welcome. This is Jill Wigmore-Welsh here from Reading in Berkshire, UK, bringing you another lesson. And today's lesson is to accompany a talk that I created, Fingers to Central Axial Skeleton. The lesson was focusing on the connection between the thoracic spine and the fingertips. So we're going to be exploring. The lesson is not meant to be a medical treatment. It's literally meant to be an exploration in your own pattern of self-use. I suggest that you start this lesson in sitting. I suggest that you begin this lesson sitting at a table or something similar, with both your hands on the table. If you're able to rest your palms down, that would be good. What I want you to do is to begin to start to lean from side to side in sitting. We're going to be working a little bit on exploring and restoring the conversation and connection from your hand through your arm to your spine and beyond. Draw your attention to the sensation underneath your palm. Close your eyes and feel what the table feels like. Notice if it's smooth or rough. If you have a cloth on the table, notice the textures. Lightly move your fingertips from side to side, just very gently and slowly. First one hand, and then the other hand. And then just slowly bending and straightening your fingers. As small a movement as you can. Feeling that sensation. Being aware that this feeling of the sensation is actually your brain communicating and connecting with your fingertips. Start circling just your little fingers. See if you can make circles outwards just with your little fingers. None of the rest of the fingers moving. First clockwise, then anti-clockwise. Just your little fingers. Then repeat this. Move to the next finger. The third finger, if you like. Clockwise circling with that little finger. Anti-clockwise circling. Feeling the texture underneath your fingertips, knowing that message is travelling all the way to your brain. And then move again to your second finger, clockwise, anti-clockwise. Finally your index finger. Compare what it's like to make a circle with your index finger, clockwise, anti-clockwise. And now repeat this with your little finger, clockwise and anti-clockwise. Now your thumb. Circle the thumb on the table, clockwise, anti-clockwise. And then the whole of your right hand, clockwise, all the fingertips in contact with the table. Clockwise, then anti-clockwise. Make the movement small, comfortable and easy. Repeat on your left hand, all the fingertips moving clockwise and anti-clockwise. Now allow yourself to have a rest. Just sit and rest. As you move your fingertips in this fashion, perhaps not the way that you'd normally move, notice what it's like to sit and rest now with your hands on the table. Allow your hands to be soft and allow them just to be dragged as you lean forward and lean back, allowing your hands to slide on the table with the movement of your body, pushing your hands forwards and backwards. Allow yourself to rest your weight on the table. And now alternate right hand and back, and left hand and back, but consciously lean into the movement. Lean into the movement, pushing your hand with your body. And now stop and have a rest. Can you feel any tingling in your fingers? Can you feel anything to tell you that you've been moving your fingers on the table? When you've had a rest, come back to moving and sliding your fingers again. You can repeat this process as frequently as you like. Stimulating the sensation on your fingertips in this manner is good. It's helping to awaken a part of your brain and nervous system that you're not used to using in this way. Now bring your attention just to your right hand, and this time allowing the arm to be soft. Think about your shoulder blade. Begin circling your shoulder blade. Notice if your hand wants to move with the circling of this shoulder blade. As you circle the shoulder blade forwards and then backwards, can your hand be dragged along the table? Just a little, no effort. Allow that hand to be moved by that shoulder blade, that scapula sliding and gliding over the back of your rib cage, encased in those muscles. Perhaps as you get used to sliding and gliding like this, you can find that your arm can move a little bit more, but not with any effort from the elbow or even much from the shoulder. Just that shoulder blade pulling and pushing, lifting. Imagine it moving sideways away from the center and then moving back. The shoulder blade is moving away and the shoulder blade is moving back. And as you do that, your arm is able to move forwards and move backwards. Gently moving that shoulder blade, that's right. Allowing your hand to move on the table. Perhaps begin to start to make a figure of 8, moving that shoulder blade in a figure of 8 configuration. Start messing around and playing with how that shoulder blade can move. Maybe it can pull right back towards the thoracic spine, and maybe it can move right away. Just sliding that shoulder blade inside those muscles. And then let your hand rest. Feel what it feels like on that side. Maybe there's some tingling in that hand from sliding on the table. And now repeat on the other hand. Moving that shoulder blade, feeling if you can allow that hand, left hand, just to be moved by this shoulder blade coming away, tipping, turning, dipping. Imagine that shoulder blade moving all the way around the side of your body as your arm is moving forward but without having to make any effort. At the elbow, it's all coming from that shoulder blade. You can play with this. You can try doing alternate hands, moving those shoulder blades. And maybe you can find that as you're sitting, there's something about a little bit of leaning to one side, leaning to the other. That means that those arms can just be moving quietly with the shoulder blade leading, restoring and sensing the connection from your hand through your arm to your spine and beyond. Allow whatever movement in your spine to be involved in whichever way you want. Now draw your attention just to resting, feeling the circulation moving through your arms, feeling the change in sensory awareness in your fingertips. Perhaps return to the circling, the small circling you did with your fingertips, and feel how it is now, clockwise, anti-clockwise, feeling what it's like to move these fingers independently, clockwise, anti-clockwise, thumb, all of the fingers, clockwise, anti-clockwise, and rest. Allow your hands to rest on your lap. Allow yourself to be aware of the quality of your breathing. Allow yourself just to sense what it's like in your fingers now. Has something about what you've just done awakened a new awareness in your fingertips? Now bring your attention to recovering your thoracic and shoulder movement and awareness, your shoulder girdle. So with your hands resting on your knees, just begin gently rolling those shoulder blades round the back and then to the front. Don't worry about your hands. So you can mess around and play. One shoulder blade can be moving, one shoulder blade can be moving. You can maybe move both shoulder blades clockwise. That makes it interesting. One's moving towards your scapula. Your scapula is moving towards your thoracic spine. And one's moving away, but they're both moving clockwise. And then you can move them the other way, both shoulder blades, moving the other way. Maybe both of them can move in and then out. In together, out to the sides, or out and then in. Just play, moving those shoulder blades, thinking of how you could move them as far as you want. As you move the shoulder blades away from the center of your spine, move them out. Take a breath in, fill that gap, and then as you allow the shoulder blades to come back together, breathe out. Move your shoulder blades away, breathe in, and allow them to come together, breathe out. And you can continue this as many times as you like. You can stop the recording if you want to. You can allow yourself just to play with moving one shoulder blade and then the other shoulder blade. Notice if you want a slightly sideways bend as you move one shoulder blade and the other shoulder blade. Perhaps there's an invitation for your thoracic spine and your lumbar spine to want to start to sideways bend a little as you move your shoulder blades. That's right. Allow yourself just to be circling those shoulder blades and feeling your rib cage, wanting to be involved in this connection. Noticing as your hands are resting on your legs, whether this dance, this shoulder blade and spine dance can extend down to your hands without you having to think. Can you move your hands from your shoulder blades in this way? Allow yourself just to breathe, relax, feel easy, and play with this movement. Bring your hands back up onto the table again. And notice the warmth, notice the relaxation. As you take a breath in now, how does it feel in between your shoulder blades? Thinking about reaching forward. As you have your hands on the table here, think of how many different ways you could move your fingers and hand along the surface of the table. Maybe you could just lean forwards and backwards. Your hand would move from close to far away. Maybe you could move that shoulder blade and that hand would move from close to far away. Maybe you could do a circle with that shoulder blade and your hand could move without you having to think about moving from the fingers. Let the fingers be soft. Play with the comparison, first with one hand and then the other, of just leaning forward and allowing that hand to move forward with you. Allowing it to slide and then come back. And then moving the shoulder blade, feeling how those fingertips move forward and backward without you having to reach and bend the elbow. You can just slide, and then shoulder blade moving, circling on the right arm, shoulder blade moving, circling on the left arm, alternating, nice and easy. Imagine what it would be like for your hands to be resting on the floor. Imagine what it would be like to be moving through your shoulder blade and your spine in the same way that a dog would have its weight on the floor, four paws on the ground, be moving through that shoulder blade, moving through that spine. Allow yourself just to move in circles with that contact, your hand making contact with the surface, feeling every slight change in the surface underneath you. And now allow your hands to come off the table. Allow them to hang down by your sides. If you're sitting, maybe you can come up into standing if it's comfortable. And just notice what your hands and arms feel like now. Notice the freedom of movement in your shoulder blades. Allow yourself just to make a slightly bigger movement and feel what it's like to allow your attention to be driven by this shoulder blade area, this wonderful shoulder blade. Place one hand on the clavicle. If you run your fingers along the front, your shoulder blade is behind, but you can feel your collarbone begin to circle again. Feel how that collarbone is moving. Put your hand on the table. Move the hand with the shoulder blade. Feel how the collarbone is moving forward and backwards. Notice what it feels like to explore this movement as slowly and gently as you want. Change hands. Put your other hand on that clavicle on the opposite side, rolling that shoulder blade. noticing how that clavicle moves, bringing your hand forward on the table, either by leaning forward or by using the shoulder blade. Notice how when you lean forward and just allow the arm to be driven, there's virtually no movement of that shoulder blade. And then notice if you begin to start to circle and move from the shoulder blade, how much movement there is at that clavicle at the front there. Notice the difference. Feel how that shoulder blade moving can influence and restore this conversation, the connection from the hand through the arm, and how it can move through into your spine. Practice these movements with awareness, but without judgment, as small or as big as you want. Beginning to think about the connection you're developing, not just from your hand to your arm to your spine and beyond, but also through your central nervous system. Imagine how this is stimulating your proprioception. Messages coming in to your brain from the sensation underneath your hand, the tiny little movements with your fingers, novel movements, causing an interest. Your brain is rediscovering something about a pattern of movement it hasn't done for a long time. Enjoy feeling the table. Enjoy putting your hands together now, interlinking your fingers. Just feel what it's like, the softness of your hands as you interlink your fingers. Interlinking your fingers and allowing your hands to be soft. Look down and notice which thumb is on top. Is it your left thumb on top of your right thumb? Is your left index finger ahead of your right index finger? Lengthen your fingers and your thumb and swap over so that your opposite thumb is the one in front. Feel what it's like to have this configuration with the other finger leading and the other thumb leading. Spread your fingers and transfer back so that you have your habitual linking again. Your fingers are linked the way you'd normally link them. Allow your fingers to spread, move, and change the configuration so that the other thumb is at the front. Continue slowly doing this, opening, changing, interlinking. Opening, changing, interlinking. Opening, changing, interlinking. Opening, changing, interlinking. Keep doing this movement and changing and changing. And after a while, you'll find that the habitual movement, the habitual way of linking, doesn't feel quite so habitual after all. You're introducing your system to something novel, that your pattern of linking your fingers is something that you learned to do, maybe in the womb, maybe when you were a tiny baby, maybe when you were very little. And what you're doing now is you're introducing your system to a subtle change. All of these movements together, and you can stop or carry on with the linking if you want. All of these movements together are opening up the connection again between your fingertips, your hand, the conversation between your arm, your spine, and beyond. And this is all helping to reawaken your brain, the somatic area where you have your body map, Allow your fingers to unlock. Just allow them to feel soft. Hands resting on your lap or on your knees. And just move those shoulders, move and wriggle your shoulders and feel the freedom of movement you have there. You can practice this movement anytime you like. Remember, this movement is not meant to be a therapy, it's an introduction to learning a little bit more about how you use your movements and how you develop your habits and how you can change your habits as well. So, if you've enjoyed this, you can repeat this as often as you like. It's not to be done with hard work and determination. It's to be done with a sense of curiosity and play. And remembering that every time you do this, you're wakening up your nervous system. So this is Jill Wigmore-Welsh from Reading in Berkshire. I train body sensing and movement awareness lessons, part of my fractal FELDENKRAIS work. I also work with people who have bone health and osteoporosis. I love teaching people how to align their bones so that they reduce the risk of having fractures, so that they can actually take more weight through their bones safely and strongly. If you've enjoyed this process, please leave me a message. If you want to learn more, then do get in touch. Have a lovely day. Take care.